Yes, for the 9th time running, the Nation Media Group brings you the 254 Realty and Homes Expo right here at the Kenyatta International Convention Center. That's the KICC courtyard. It's a two-day event starting today, the 24th of February, Friday, the 24th of February, and tomorrow, the 25th of February, here at the KICC courtyard. Do be sure to interact with us and have a great conversation, as this time round we are taking a major look at collaborations and partnerships for affordable housing. Yes, regime after regime, they have come, they have gone. The latest one is the Jubilee administration that gave us the Big Four agenda, one of which was to offer affordable housing. And now we have the ruling Kenya Kwanza government that has this ambitious plan to churn out 200,000 to 250,000 houses annually. Yes, it's something that President William Ruto has committed to, and he's been all around the country trying to do this annually, year in, year out, as he has just around 5 years, or just about 4.5 years, to go to the end of his first term. And today, here at the 254 Realty and Homes Expo, we do debunk this great conversation as far as home ownership is concerned. Just to give you a quick overview of my panel right here, right next to me is Miss Harriet Kuria. She's the Managing Director at South Front Properties. And right next to her is Naftali Mwangi, who's the CEO, Hosop Properties. And right to my far left is Mr. John Kaforo, the Regional Manager and Head of Mortgage at ABSA Kenya PLC. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me right here for this great conversation, even as we continue to fill up the panel. And I'll start with you, Harriet, right next to me. When we talk about leveraging the new technologies to minimize construction costs, I mean, the aspect that is building in this country really is expensive. So what exactly are we talking about when we say leveraging on the costs?
Thank you very much, Brian. When we hear leveraging and we hear construction, as we said, a lot of these things, when you hear building, and any of us, if you want to build, you think about the cost. And for me, I think if we're able to come together and say, I want to build, is the financial available? Is the government with me? Is the land available? Is it viable in the first place? You know, at the end of the day, you need a piece of land or property to buy. Is it viable? Has the government provided systems to make sure you're able to get the right information when you need it? Is the financing available, the financial aspect of it? Am I able, am I viable? Is it flexible enough for us to be able to say, can I get financing from the bank, the SACCO? What are you? Construction, the cost of construction in Kenya is so high. You know, are we able to say, is there a construction company that can be able to say, can the government exempt taxes for these people? Do we have a cap for it? Are we able to say, if you are building a house below this kind of millions, are you able to just be exempted your taxes? Those are the kind of conversation I think we should be having today, because that requires us or affords us the ability to have decent living. Anybody can afford housing, you can construct, you can buy. And I think that's the way we should be talking about it today. Absolutely.
Thank you, Harriet. And yes, we continue to speak about government, but you've also mentioned something very critical as far as financing is concerned. So I am a homeowner, or I intend to be a homeowner in the next 1, 2, 3 years. You've talked about financing, and on this panel we have John Kafuru, who's the Regional Manager and Head of Mortgage at ABSA Kenya PLC. Thank you for joining us. I mean, when you talk about financings, really at ABSA and in the market like you know it, do we have those options that have out everyone in society as is right now?
Thank you, Brian. I'll start off by commenting about ABSA Bank's commitment in this space. As ABSA Bank, we say our purpose is to bring possibilities to life. So the home ownership, being at the center of everyone's dream, is one of the key things we are intending to support Kenyans to do. We are shareholders of KMRC. We will not talk about KMRC a lot right now, but we are, as shareholders of KMRC, it's our investment in the public and private partnership between the private sector and the government to deliver affordable housing. So as ABSA, we've also gone a step further. We've obtained funds from KMRC to add to what else we have been setting aside for mortgages. Our ambition, say this year, is to deliver more than 12 billion financing to Kenyans to afford homes. So that coupled with the affordable housing piece is among the things we have committed ourselves to do. In terms of the availability of these options, we have a range of options, and I think it comes in two ways, from a buying perspective or a building perspective. A lot of Kenyans prefer building their own homes. Out of the 61% of homeowners, or rather 61% of Kenyans are homeowners through construction, as opposed to 3% which is buying. So in the construction space, we have solutions which we can discuss later, but there's options to help someone who wants to build a home. If they have a plot, which is the common nature of Kenyans, you start buying a plot, probably through SACCO or unsecured financing. We can help you build that home. So the rates we have are at 9.5%, which is quite affordable when you look at the current market rates of 18%. So there are a range of solutions that we have in line. Brian?
Absolutely, thank you very much. And you bring in some nice aspects there, 3% to 60%, which we are going to definitely break down in the coming minutes. And of course, the 9.5% rate that you have there at ABSA. But now, allow me to also drag in Naftali Mwangi, who's the CEO, Highsops Properties. I mean, just speaking on leveraging on new technologies to minimize construction. I mean, to minimize construction costs, because that's something that everyone is talking about. My goodness, kujenga. When you are in town and you see someone and they have money, the common phrase is, boss, hauna pesa, kwani uko na mjengo, you know. So, I mean, shed some light as far as minimizing is concerned. And note, so far in the country, I think Kiambu County has recently been hit hard by constructions coming down. Even Nairobi County, we have seen it. All across the country, we have also seen it. So you're minimizing cost, but still looking out for quality. Kindly shed some light on that.
Thank you so much, Brian. If there is an exceller in this program, the ambitious 250,000 houses per year, it is technology. Look at it. It takes about 3 months or about 6 months to get your drawings approved at City Council. Now, today, we have a technology called geomapping, okay? It's easy to have a geomap your land and even geosurvey your land. So there's a huge use of technology. Currently, we are doing an R&D on how do we use drones, even on the mapping, so that in a day or two, you have your documents at the land's office. Number two, there are so many professionals involved in construction. You need to have an architect, you need to have a contractor, and all that. So what about the introduction of smart contracts? Smart contracts. So there's a new technology, and here we are leveraging on the blockchain technology so that we can have a smart contract from my banker, my financier on one side, to my subcontractor on the other side. Everyone through blockchain technology can see exactly what is happening real time. So if there will be an acceleration on this program, it has to be on technology. The other thing is, look at it. We are almost done with our quarries. No more materials around. So there's a whole new technology of using technology called PSL or polystyrene systems. That are going to be used instead of brick and mortar. Okay, so has to be technology to accelerate this.
Okay, and definitely we've definitely been joined on this panel. And right before you walked in, Mr. Johnson Oltetia, the conversation was on government. And I mean, looking at this panel, you're closest to government, so we would task you to definitely speak on government and also talk to us about the public-private partnerships as far as home ownership is concerned. His Excellency President William Ruto and the Kenya Kwanza government has consistently reminded us that we need 200,000 to 250,000 homes annually. That's quite ambitious, considering we've seen regime after regime come in, come out. I sat with you right on this courtyard 2 years ago, when we had this same conversation under the Jubilee administration. Of course, it was a heated political time that time, and there was a contradiction as far as the numbers, because on one side, then government spokesperson Cyrus Oguna was saying something else, and the numbers were saying something else. PS Hinga was also here. What's the situation like with the new administration? Just as we welcome you to this panel, sir.
Thank you. It's only that I can't speak for government because I hope this is audible.
Just as we try to sort out your mic, let me just take on Mr. Johnson Kafuro, who's the regional manager and head of mortgage at ABSA Kenya PLC. When we talk about getting up a mortgage in this country, and when you say mortgaging in this country, it really is deni. Unajua deni ni deni. Deni ni deni. And everyone in some way fears debt. Yes, they say hata dunia yenyewe iko ndani ya deni. Nchi yenyewe iko na deni. Mimi ni nani nikose deni? Talk to us about what you guys look out for as far as the risk pricing model is concerned. And in this day and age, Kenyans are really have been listed under CRB. That's a credit bureau that requires you to at least pass that threshold to be able to be credit worthy. Talk to us about those 2 points.
Thank you. Talking of deni, you know, mortgages are sometimes viewed like it's a different kind of a debt, but it's only a different path that is available, and a very innovative way actually of doing it. Otherwise, if you look at Kenyans being one of them, we have very many sources of deni, starting with Fuliza. There is now another one which has come in, and there has been the traditional unsecured borrowings that are offered by banks. If you look at ABSA, we can give you up to 6 million unsecured. If you go to the circles, they play with the multiples of your deposits. So there have been very many channels of obtaining financing. Now, the mortgage piece, when you look at the numbers of mortgage accounts we have, which is less than 27,000 as at end of 2022, it tells you that the uptake of mortgages as a solution has not been that embraced. But what I look at it is, the way I look at it is a psychological position, because the way the mortgage would help you to do the same thing is better in this sense. Right now, we said most of Kenyans own their homes by building. But how do they do that? They start by taking an unsecured loan. You buy a plot. Then you repay that over, say, 3 to 5 years. Then you take a top-up. You start constructing. You do one stage, maybe just doing the foundation. Then you repay your loan over the next 2-3 years. Then you go to the next stage. So you find the process between the first loan you took to buy the plot to when you finish through these unsecured solutions, the period is almost 7-9 years. But this person could easily have walked into the bank and taken a mortgage, a construction loan, say from us at 20 years, and within 6 to 9 months, you have your own home. Now, one of the challenges around affordability of home loans was the serviceability in terms of the amount you're paying per month. Now, if you take an unsecured loan and compress it to 5 years or 4 years, it means you're paying more in a month. But when you take it as a mortgage, up to 25 years when you're buying, 20 years when you're building, it means you can pay probably a quarter or a half of what you are paying. And that then means it's affordable, and you can use the extra cash flow to do other bits of your financial plans. Now, in terms of what has happened in terms of supporting Kenyans with affordable housing, I think Mr. Olteti will talk more about KMRC. But what it has done is bringing the interest rate down. Again, that talks to the cost of buying that home or building that home. So there are those innovations that are coming through that are helping us now to put more on the table for someone to own a home.
Thank you very much. And I think right now we have Mr. Johnson Oltetia's microphone sorted out. Remember, he's the CEO of the Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company. Of course, just asking you to paint for us a picture as far as public-private partnership is concerned from the time you've been there at least for 2 regimes now, as much as anyone can remember. What's the situation like in the country currently?
The situation is improving. So when you look at PPP, you note that it is public and private together. And the important thing about that is essentially you realize that government alone cannot deliver everything. That's why you need the private sector. But you also have to look at what problem are you trying to sort out. So the problem is actually the additional P. So you have PPPP, which is people. So you are sorting out the issues that people have. Now, the importance of a public-private partnership is that one of the parties or either of the parties will come to the table with something. So for example, government plays a critical role in supporting the environment. So you or government puts together the policies that are required for purposes of ensuring that there is an enabling environment. Now, the private sector, on the other hand, come in with financing. So one of the PPPs actually, and we believe it's been one that is effective, is KMRC. KMRC is actually a private-public partnership institution. And that is essentially because government has interest, and it was actually established by government, and it was established purposely as a private-public partnership. Now, what does that tell you? That there is greater recognition on the importance of public-private partnership. And that's essentially why we believe that that is the way to go. That you need the government on this side, and certainly the government will come in with the enabling environment, potentially also providing land, for example, for housing development. And the private sector will come in to add into technology, like my colleagues have been describing here. You have financing, which you can mobilize from the private sector. Now, there has been a discussion here in Kenya of using pension funds mainly, and that is for obvious reasons. The fact that pension funds have long-term funds that can be mobilized and used for purposes of developing housing. But that's not the only PPP. You have banks, you have circles, for example, which KMRC is working with, and I think that's the way to go. The fact that government will never have fiscal space to be able to sort out all the challenges that we have means that government has obviously to bring in the private sector. We currently have an enabling legislation. In fact, there is a department at the National Treasury that is dealing only purposely with private-public partnership. And so that's the importance or the recognition that government has placed on the role played by that partnership. But essentially, of course, you certainly need to look at people, and that means we have to have that engagement to determine what exactly do people need. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Oltetia. And we've just been joined on this panel by Mr. Martin Kariuki, who's the head of marketing at Centum Investments. Karibu sana to the conversation. Just to have you on board and say something really on executing cost-friendly mixed-use housing projects, because Centum has been here, has been through it all. Through the ups and downs, as one would talk about it. So talk to us about that particular space as far as having cost-effective, friendly, mixed-use housing projects like we see all around the country that you guys have.
Thank you, Brian. And it is true that the future of how we do housing is geared towards mixed-use development. And the reason why we say so is because when you look at a model mixed-use city, or a development for that sake, you benefit from synergy, from the infrastructure cost and also the convenience. When you do a mixed-use development, there are those costs that you incur But when you spread that cost over a large user base, you end up gaining economies of scale. Let me put this into perspective. Maybe you do a water treatment plant that is maybe 2 million liters capacity per day. If you are just doing 100 homes, it is not economical at all to do that kind of investment. So when you do such and you have over 3,000 homes to benefit from such an infrastructure cost, when you spread that cost over the cost of these homes, you find that you're able to gain a lot of economies of scale. Also, the fact that mixed-use development are bringing in the issue of shop, live, work, and play in one place is a manifestation that depending on the nature of your work, you can literally work and live and shop and entertain in the same development. Our model mixed-use development was, the first one we did was Two Rivers here in Nairobi, where we started with the mall. But even before we did the shopping mall, the previous years before people came to learn about the mall, we spent about 3 or 4 years doing infrastructure costs. And those costs, we are still spreading it up to date, Brian, because the cost is spread over the years as you develop other aspects of the mixed-use development. So it is one way that developers need to make sure that for sustainability, we are able to put infrastructure that can be spread over a large user base, as opposed to just having very few homes, and then you find that the developer is shying away from doing those high-cost infrastructure just because it doesn't make economic sense.
Thank you very much for your sentiments there. And just to continue to engage with you, who is watching us right on NTV, of course you can catch us on the web. That's www.ntvkenya.co.ke, and also interact with us on social media, on our social media platforms at NTV Kenya on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and also at nation.africa. To bring on board Harriet and Naftali, who've been quite silent on this panel for the past couple of minutes. Harriet, and perhaps just to start off with Naftali, really, when you talk about technologies and it's new, and we talk about government, and government needs to be part of this direction, and I'll require also Harriet to say something on this. Does government give us the enabling environment to play around with new technology? Note, they are also entitled and they are supposed to take care of you and I as a Kenyan, because every so often we have something being launched. You know, we have new steel being launched. The cost of steel in the country due to the Russia-Ukraine war has gone up. So you expect, of course, the cost to go higher. So we will definitely be looking out for new technology. So what's the hand of government in this? And Harriet, I'll require you also to mention something on that.
Our government, especially the current and the immediate former, is a serious enabler on technology. I'll give you an example. Last year, Qatar had World Cup. Do you know 2 million people? They hosted 2 million people in prefab houses. And immediately after the World Cup was over, the houses were brought down, and actually 90% are coming into Africa. That is technology. Look at what is happening even in Syria right now and Turkey. I saw the government saying that they're going to build 500,000 houses in the next 1 month. This cannot be achieved with our conservative way of constructing. It has to be technology. So even a body as KMRC is part of the enabler that the government had to push in the use of pension funds. But the biggest axilla, as I had said earlier, is technology. The future client, the future customer, the future Kenyan does not really need a 5-bedroom house. Okay, I want to live in a house, a prefabbed house that can be done in 10 days, 15 days. And when I want to move to Nakuru or move to Mombasa, I can actually carry my house with me to Mombasa on a lorry and set it up on another piece of land. So because land ownership is what has made housing a very expensive affair. So if the issue of land can be demystified by doing semi-permanent housing own different pieces of land, and I've just given you an example of Qatar. They didn't need all these houses because they even don't have the space. They are a third in terms of geographical space of what Kenya is. But imagine hosting more than 2 million people in a period of 3 months. They needed prefab, even their own stadiums. All of them were brought down after the World Cup. So huge research on technology that HISO Properties is investing in, because that is what is going to set us aside, set us apart, and even as a country to achieve this ambitious goal of housing our people.
Harriet, your sentiments on the same?
Let me first say, I think things are improving, especially when it comes to PPP. I will go in that line because currently, at Southfront, we are working closely with a pension fund, that is LAP Fund, where we are working with them to do a Makasembo project, which is an affordable housing, which is part of the current regime's agenda. So when it comes to things improving in context of partnerships, I think we are moving to a forward way. In context of mixed development that the guy from Centum has spoken about.
That's Mr. Martin Karaoke.
Mr. Martin Karaoke, sorry. That is the way to go, because also LAP Fund is working at Bellevue to push a mixed development project. That means the government, the private sector, and the financials are coming together to do that. When it comes to technology, I think that's the place we feel the most in context of government. I think we need to push more agendas in context of making sure we can move faster. You know, in that there is no way we can be having housing projects that are lasting 10 years, 5 years. We need to move faster, we need to do better. We need to be able to create prefabs, as my colleague has just said, that can be able to allow us to do 10 days, 15 days project. That means what? We move faster, decent living, where we can occupy a small area, quality life, quality living, and the government can actually allow us to have better taxation. Because I think when it comes to construction, it's about money. Yeah. Still is very expensive. So taxation needs to come down. You know, government needs to also avail land that can actually be able for us to be able to build on, because land is very expensive in Kenya currently. And what's the markup? You know, we need to also have guidance on why is this land this much and this land this much. So yeah, that's my opinion on that topic.
Definitely have households and housing done faster, safer, and of course technology being embraced in the country. Great sentiments right there from Harriet Kuria, Managing Director, Southfront Properties. Just to get a sentiment from Mr. Johnson Oltetia, CEO, Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company. Walk with me on what I need to do, how I need to handle myself and carry myself, because when the normal and regular Kenyan listens to KMRC, they look at it as this giant, this monster. So walk with me as an individual if I want to be part of this as an investor.
Thank you. So you're right. KMRC is this giant. It's a massive small organization, because of course it's a little recent. But I just want to take a step back and react a little bit to the sentiments Harriet had raised. So when you look at the situation right now in Kenya, we actually don't have a shortage of ideas. We don't even have a shortage of financing anymore. So what do we need? We need to pull together. And that is the essence of public-private partnership. So that we get all these ideas together and go into development. What we now need is development at scale. And I believe we can be able to achieve that. Now, just going into KMRC, so one of the key solutions that KMRC has brought is actually what Kaburu brought out earlier. Now, we are sorting out one key rigidity in the financing system. Now, providing long-term financing has been a challenge. And that actually is one of the discussions that came up sometimes back, to the effect that there is lack of long-term end-user finance, which is essentially what KMRC has come to resolve. Now, the argument ordinarily that you hear is, what is the problem? And yet we have banks and they have lots of money. We have SACCOs and they have lots of money. But the issue is, yes, they do. But what kind of money do they have? It's short-term. It's people's deposits are considered short-term. Now, short-term funds can be put into long-term investments, and that runs into a mismatch. And that's actually the biggest problem that financial institutions have. The regulator essentially, will actually provide a maximum amount under which you can mismatch your book. Now, KMRC has removed that problem. So now, Kaburu, ABSA, and the rest can access long-term funding where they can actually match with the long-term loans they provide. Now, when you lengthen that, and that's also one of the key issues, when you lengthen the duration of the loan repayment, you actually make it a lot more affordable. Now, the other fundamental thing that KMRC is sorting out is the issues around interest rates. So number one, the interest rates are lower, actually sub 10 or below 10, which is what we call single digits, and fixed. Those rates are actually fixed. Now, the variability of interest rates affects the ability for someone to be able to qualify or even potentially to default on a loan. And this is what happens. So you take a loan, and because it's a variable rate, like what we see currently, markets have moved, we have serious inflation, the regulators have increased the regulatory rate, which essentially is the lowest level of, of a deposit. So 8.75, for example, is what we have. So the cost of funds increases. And the cost of funds now, the minimum is actually 8.75. So what happens? The financial institutions increase the rate. And now they are going into what they call risk-based pricing and things like that. Yeah. Now what happens is the variable rates will increase. Now if you had taken a loan and your circumstances have not improved, your income has not improved in tandem with the movements in the market, then you have a problem, because you will not then be able to repay the loan because of the increased rate. And that in certain cases or occasionally leads to defaults, which is what is considered non-performing loans. Now, we have removed that problem as well because the rate is fixed. So you take a loan currently and that rate is fixed for you, and therefore you'll not have a significant issue. So the step is KMRC, yes, provide financing, and there is no shortage of that, to the primary lenders, which is the banks and the SACCOs. You go to any of the SACCOs, any of the banks that is getting financing from KMRC, and you get a long-term one at a lower than market rate, and it's at the same time fixed, and you should be able to own your home. Now, the issue about home ownership, sometimes you realize that people want to defer, home ownership. You think potentially you are young, or you think at the moment I cannot be able to afford and something like that. But it's terribly inefficient to build a home over time. Although we say that incremental housing development is okay, but it's very, very inefficient. The inefficiency here is you can't access your home now, and yet you need a home now, right? So for the next 7 or so years, and things keep changing as you continue the construction, it actually ultimately become more expensive.
I mean, definitely, and I can see Mr. John Kafuru, of course, stones have been thrown to your house. I don't know whether it's a glass house, but I'll just give you a second to maybe also give a rebuttal, as well as Mr. Naftali. You seem to be aching for something, but I'll have Mr. John Kafuru go first. Just a reminder to my panelists that the purpose for this conversation is to create collaboration and partnerships for affordable housing. So we are tag teams here. So just to get the two gentlemen's sentiments, and also Mr. Kafuru, as you answer that, there are so many players in the market. There are so many players in the market that are looking to offer me financing to be a homeowner. So what am I supposed to look out? What am I supposed to call out for as far as home ownership is concerned?
Brian, I think I want to add one more, and it's a recognition, Mr. Oltetio, as to what KMRC is doing. So besides the financing that they've afforded us, in terms of affordability and in terms of addressing the tenor, which we are doing in the conventional traditional mortgages, but there is one more thing that you have done which is education, awareness. I'm seeing a lot of work being done by KMRC in educating us in terms of how do we own a home through mortgages, as opposed to the way we have been doing it using unsecured loans, and as he said, in a very inefficient manner over a very long term. So that's a job that you're doing very well in your team, and we are partners in that too, where we have joint sessions, where we do customer education events, where we host Twitter spaces, social media updates that are saying KMRC and ABSA, we are here to provide these solutions. So in terms of addressing that challenge of tenor and affordability, if you look at the maximum tenor for loans that we are giving, we can give up to 25 years for a purchase. So you can imagine at the 9.5%, if you're buying a house of around 4 million at 9.5%, the monthly repayment for the mortgage is 35,000. Yet you find someone is paying 40,000 as rent for almost a similar unit. So that is something we are providing. The second bit is again on the interest rates, where we have two versions of interest rates. There is the KMRC rate, which is 9.5. But again, in terms of collaboration, there are employers who are willing to support their employees. We have about 3,000 companies we are working with. And when they do the mortgage check-off, we can lower that to even 9%. So that rate is also addressed in terms of it being affordable. The third bit, I think, which you may want to notice, is that we are providing the same under construction. So I know the challenge has been that someone has bought a plot with unsecured funding, and I would encourage you to walk to any of our branches to have that conversation. So I have a plot here, which I bought unsecured, so I think I may not qualify for a loan, but there's a way we can work around it and add more money to consolidate the loan that you had, and you also build your home. So I think that should be easy for us.
And after your sentiments?
Brian, listening in, the word that is coming out is scaling up. And if you look at the checklist, we have everything ticked. We have the client, who's a common Kenyan. I look at it, Nairobi, one out of 10 Nairobians, only one lives in their own house. So that is ticked. Number two, we have financiers, the ABSAs and all the banks. To add on to that, we have a refinancier called KMRC. To add on to that, we have land. Okay, so what is the issue? Where is the bottleneck? The bottleneck is on processes. How long does it take from approval up to handing over the house? And that is where technology has to come in. At Hyso Properties, we are right now piloting in a project in Samburu, where we are using the blockchain technology, where the customer can see exactly from the time the funds are being released by their financier and what the contractor is doing every day. So if there will be acceleration, and if there will be a hub to accelerate this ambitious plan, or this ambitious housing plan, is technology. Banks come with a lot of red tape. And I'm not throwing stones to ABSA here. So there's a lot of red tape.
Everyone seems to be attacking.
Okay. It will take a month to get my loan approved. Okay. I'm not saying ABSA. But again, it will take another 3 months for county council to approve, to give me approvals on my construction. So if all these things can be collapsed in a portal where everything can be done simultaneously and all the securities are in there, then we are going to accelerate these things, because we have everything. We have the monies, we have the clients, we have the land. So what is the problem? It's technology. And that is where fintechs have given a whole change in technology. I mean, it took 1 day for Fuliza to lend 10 billion shillings. 1 day, okay? 1 day, or is it 1 week, okay?
Yeah.
It will take a conservative bank about 6 months or 3 months to do so. So the point is on technology, and it's a call to government as a regulator, as an enabler. How do we inject technology? It's been done in Syria and Turkey. It's been done in South Africa, in Soweto. They used a lot of technology in housing. So that is where That is the blue ocean in there.
But Naftali, of course, just to mention that definitely there are several things that come into play as far as banks are concerned, even as fintechs are concerned, because even the way they look at risk and their clients is definitely different. But that's definitely a discussion that can be taken forward. And Harriet has been nodding all the way. I'm sure everyone here has had a story of you live or you have a relative who lives in Canada, alafu ameambiwa atume 10,000, sasa tunaeka roof. And then once you get home, what you have been sent and what you come to get in and live is different. Talk to us about the processes that have been brought out by Bwana Naftali.
Why I agree with him, I mean, it's because it's so unfortunate how hard it is to build a home, and he just gave a ratio. 1 out of 10 Kenyans lives in their own home. And the question is why? We also have houses that are going for 1.8 million. We still have houses that, we still have land somewhere that is affordable. But the thought of, let me say currently, even if you're in Canada or in Kenya, the thought of even starting to build your own home is just a headache. Because whether I'm doing large scale or small scale, the processes that are in between are still very difficult. Why don't we create a platform that can allow us or enable us to just be able to do this system? Even that house, that person is in Canada, they can easily come into the country and do it in 2 weeks because it's possible and it's faster and it's doable. At the end of the day, those people who are away have gone to get money, to make money to come and invest back home. But it's making it impossible. So what happens? We are disadvantaged here in the country. And therefore, I think, again, the government, and they go back to the government because they're the ones who are the bigger players. They're the ones to fast track, to tell us, okay, can we do this? Are you able to create platforms to allow us to be able to learn, to teach? As we've seen, there's a lot of information out there, but have you consolidated it to be able to know this is the steps that needs to work? If you're if you're constructing your house for the first time, you'd actually be very surprised because in qua ground vitu ni different.
Very different.
You know, you can have you can go to APSA, get financing, thinking that this is the time you're working with. You go to a contractor, but when the things hit the ground, everything is totally different. So it costs us time, it costs you money, and of course you're frustrated in the process. So it doesn't make our housing industry any better.
And I'll bring in Mr. Oltetia just to mention something right after I engage Mr. Martin Karaoke. But Mr. Oltetia, just prepare on a conversation or what conversations are had on the table when we talk about public-private partnerships. Definitely you'll give your sentiments on that. But Mr. Karaoke, the head of marketing at Centum Investments, your word, and just take us through on this new, really, because it's kind of new, on rent-to-own kind of ownership as far as home ownership is concerned. So I'm renting to own. What does that mean?
That's a very interesting concept, Brian. And what I would say is that the rent-to-own model is not yet understood in this market. Of course, it has its own challenges. And what it basically means is that I'm giving you a house. I'll price it accordingly so that if you are paying me rent over several years, eventually maybe if you are to pay that house upfront, I would have sold it to you at 3 million. But if you're going to pay me rent over time and that rent goes towards you acquiring the house, you might find the house eventually the total cost is about 7 million. So that's what it basically means, rent to own model. But I would say mostly developers are not embracing it for obvious reasons. And I think one of the reasons is because developers also get financed for these developments. So you find that most developers are not patient to wait for somebody to pay them rent for the next 10 years to recoup their money, because the financial, on the other hand, want their money over maybe 6 or 7 years. So that's one of the challenges that it's being experienced. It works very well where the developer is equity funded, meaning that he can calculate his pricing properly. He just need to factor in the time value of money so that he knows this house today is 3 million, but if I go rent to own model, eventually it will cost 8 million. So that's basically the bottleneck in the rent to own model. And most developers today, if you go and ask them, it's a common question we get even at Centum, can I do rent to own model with your developments? And we usually refer such customers to the panel of financials we are working with, because they have the patience to wait for 20, 25 years, which we as the developers might not have. So those are some of the challenges that the rent-to-own model is facing in this country, but it's a good concept. But the issue of financing the developers and the patience to wait over the years is something that is worth looking into.
Mr. Kariuki, just remaining on you, there are so many players in the market, just like we mentioned of the ABSAs and so many players in the market. So what should I be looking out for when I approach you guys or Centum or any other players in the market? Because there are so many. How do I know, how do I pinpoint, or what do I look out for when it comes to pinpointing hapa ninaoshwa and this seems to be legit?
So, Brian, I take your question to mean pinpointing the financing side on the developer side.
From the developer side.
From the developer side. So, one of the pinpoints that the market is experiencing to date is that you're sold very big dreams, but what you get is almost opposite of what you're told. This is what we deliver. One of the things you need to look at as a potential buyer for a home is who are you going to? And this is where I mentioned about the concept of mixed-use development. It's very unlikely a developer who is doing a mixed-use development will just run away with a block of 20 apartments, yet he has 50 acres to develop. And he has also sunk a lot of infrastructure costs. So I think that sounds to the financial stability of that developer. So that even if you are going to buy off-plan, because again, something interesting to note is that today as a developer, if you try to build a home and sell it when it's ready, most people are unable to raise the money, and most people don't want to take the debt again, which is good debt if you are to take to buy a home and occupy immediately. So that's where the issue of off-plan comes in, where people come and give their ideas and the house is being developed, they are paying slowly. But again, we know people have lost money through such schemes. So one of the things I encourage people who are looking forward to buy a home is look at what kind of environment are you buying into, because it's very unlikely that a developer will spend billions of money to put infrastructure before he even puts a house for you. Is a clear sign that I'm confident this house will be completed. Also look at the success stories, because I can't be saying I will deliver this and I have nothing to show that I have attempted to deliver such a similar thing in the past. So that's the main thing, because sometimes people ask for proof of funding, which is very difficult for people to be given. But I think the obvious signs that anybody can be able to assess are the few issues I mentioned on the location, the infrastructure already put in place, and the success stories for that developer.
Okay, definitely. I had engaged Mr. Johnson Oltetia on something to do with the public-private partnerships, and definitely is going to answer on that. But just to put in your mind, definitely think about, and I'm going to ask you about the competition that you could be facing from local and international investors, and definitely international investors really, and Naftali as well as Harriet could also mention something on that, because a couple of weeks ago I visited a development on Mombasa Road, and it was quite interesting to note that even the cupboard to the kitchen, or the drawers, or the rails, or whatever it is, to the smallest and finest detail was brought in from Europe, and it is actually labeled made in XYZ country. But Mr. Oltetia, your word on what is this that usually happens on this table that has public-private partnerships? What is it that happens there?
Thank you. A lot usually happens, but let me just take a step and react to some issues around process, which is also linked to what we are talking about on private-public partnership. Now, process is important. Process is good. What you need, however, is efficiency in the process. So there has to be some reasonable processes and essentially make it a lot more transparent, so that you can actually scope out what are the processes that are needed under certain circumstances. and create transparency by showing that this is the process and this is potentially the reasonable time it will take to have. When you create transparency, people actually appreciate that there is that process, which is important because you also have to manage risk. But then, are they aware how long it takes? The more you create that transparency for them to know how long it takes, the more people start appreciating that usually this is, and then of course you can plan. Now, and that is linked to public-private partnerships. Now, the most important conversations, and essentially on the process, is usually how long is the close. Like for example, one of the most important things in a public-private partnership is a financial close. So how long does it take to get into a financial close? I mean, we've had a couple of PPPs, structured PPPs that is, that takes so long to just get into a financial close. But the discussion is important. It is essentially good to realize that you have an idea of who are the key stakeholders and what is their stake in a public-private partnership. Government is actually essentially one of the most important stakeholders in that, because the enabling environment, the legislative framework that will be supportive of a public-private partnership have to be there, have to be in place. But then you also have to identify who are the other key stakeholders in public-private partnership. So of course you start looking at financials, for example. You start looking at technology, who can provide that kind of technology support. You start looking at contractors or construction, because we are essentially talking about housing. Who are these developers that are keen on development? But you know what? It has to make business sense. So the discussion essentially has to start when there are alignments between what I need as a business partner and what essentially the project will sound like. So those are the most important discussions that you have on the table when you are driving a public partnership. But when you create an environment, and essentially at the moment we actually have a very enabling environment in Kenya for public-private partnerships. Anyone will have an interest, or anyone who has a business that is aligned with that will see a business opportunity, because businesses follow efficiencies. They want to see the opportunity. And the questions start now going into timelines, I think the processes that we're talking about. And if that is clear, you will be very willing to come to the table to have that conversation.
Okay. Thank you very much for your sentiments there, and I'll require my panelists also to gear up their final remarks, because I just have slightly under 6 minutes to finish this up. But starting out with Mr. Karaoke, from who's the head of marketing at Centum, kindly react to the competition that you're facing as players in the market from the international space. And I'll also require Naftali and Harriet also to react to the same.
Competition is very good because it gives the buyer the advantage, and it also cultivates efficiency on the part of the players, in this case the developers. It is true there is a lot of competition, and that is a wake-up call to make sure that whatever you do, you have to be efficient. We as the developers, you have to now think, how do we bring the cost of construction to the minimal level possible while maintaining quality. But again, we are moving to an era whereby we want also to compete not just on the mortar and brick. We want to compete on the lifestyle. What are you offering your home buyers? Because again, I can have a nice cabinet made in Europe, but I don't have a place for your children to play. So it's a conversation we are engaging our customers that today, when you're buying a home, don't just look at the mortar and brick and the nitty-gritties. You also need to look at the lifestyle, because you're buying this home, you'll be with it for maybe until your entire lifetime or for a very long period of time. So we have to look at those other things, because if your child cannot get a place to play, and I have put for you cabinets from Europe, essentially I have not helped you. I might price my home a bit more expensive, but I have given you a better lifestyle. So it's a conversation that we are having, but at the same time, it's also giving us a wake-up call to look at our cost and increase our efficiencies. And one of the things I would say, Brian, is that initially how we used to give out our projects is that you let the contractor do everything. But in the spirit of competition, nowadays you go and negotiate the cost of materials with the people who sell.
Okay.
So that the person who is building for you is coming with the labor. So in that approach, you're able to save significant cost, which you're able to pass on to the buyers. So when you add that now to the things like lifestyle, a place where people can play, and a lot of other things that complement home ownership, you find that you're able to beat the competition hands down. And again, the advantage we have as the local developers is understanding the dynamics of the Kenyan market, which we use again to our advantage.
Okay, Harriet and Naftali, very briefly, your reaction on competition from the international market.
If you look at the skylines of Kilimani and Kileleshwa right now, there are so many skyscrapers coming up, and I can assure you that that money is not local money. That money has been procured from outside. And money coming from foreign players comes with a lot of strings attached. One of the strings would be on materials. Like you just said, that you know what, we're going to give you these $20 million, do your project, but you have to buy materials from X. And so that takes away the benefits that could have come into this country. If you look at what is happening in Isili and the malls and everything, huge competition on financing. And basically that means there is no a laid good ground for all the players. Very expensive money locally, affordable money coming from foreign countries. And so competition is working, and yes, it's good for the client, but again, it is not very good for the local developer.
Harriet, your sentiments on competition briefly.
I believe competition is healthy, and it's important to have that kind of competition, because the people have to have, or the client has to have variation on what they can choose. But my question is, what can we do to make sure that I don't need to go to maybe China to get steel, and I can get steel in Kenya? And I think, again, I go back to the government should be able to allow us, contract the local developer to be able to do such things without feeling a strain. Because even locally, the local developer is still getting stuff from outside the country. Not only the international developer, even the local developer is still going out of the country to get raw materials and stuff. So I think it's just about execution of how the government should be able to help us. Again, I go back to the government. I hit the government very hard because they're the ones who are supposed to set the pace on how we're going to live and work.
With slightly under 2 minutes to go to 10 a.m., Mr. John Kafero, Regional Manager and Head of Mortgage at ABSA Kenya PLC, your final remarks.
My final remarks would be a big thank you to you for bringing this, as I said, creating this awareness and information forums where we demystify the mortgage offering. It's a big piece. Come to ABSA, any of our branches across the country, in Nairobi and in the towns outside. We are here to give you advice. We work with you with the journey. We give you a journey through with even the professionals, the lawyers and the valuers to make this dream come true. So come to us at ABSA.
Mr. Johnson Oltetia, your final remarks. CEO, Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company.
Public-private partnerships are working, and that's the way to go. And KMRC is a good example of a public-private partnership. And essentially what you're looking at is crowding in, especially when you're on the government side, crowding in private sector financing to support affordable housing. And that's essentially what we're providing for right now. But one advice that we like to provide to people: buy your home now, don't wait to buy a home.
Martin Karaoke, Head of Marketing at Centum. Briefly, really, because we're out of time, your final remarks, and then I'll have Naftali and Harriet also.
What I would like to part away with from this is, as we look for a home, long are gone the days when a home was just a home. You don't want to buy a home, and if you want to jog, we will see you on the road as we drive jogging. When your kids need to play, they have to go to some very distant place to play. Buy a home with lifestyle, it's affordable, and that's where mixed-use development comes in. And what we are doing at Centum, you're not just selling the high-end houses, we are actually cutting across from affordable housing, mid-market to high-end. So That's where the advantage of mixed use comes into play, so that you will lead a very good lifestyle and you're also proud of where you own your home.
Naftali and Harriet, really in like 10 seconds, please.
Great. My parting shot would be, as a company, our strategic intent is on technology. How do we make sure that technology has been used better? At Hyso Properties, we are piloting on this one around the country. We're based at International House, second floor. And yes, it's technology to make house ownership a reality.
Okay, Harriet, your final remarks.
Yeah, thank you very much, Brian, for this opportunity. At Southfront Properties, we're big on affordable housing and rent as you own. Kindly get in touch with us. We should be able to have different conversations and advise you on the way forward. Santi.
Absolutely. That has been the first session of the 254 Realty and Homes Expo. We are coming to you live from the Kenyatta International Convention Center, KICC. Just to run through my panel really quick, right next to me was Ms. Harriet Kariuki, Managing Director, Southfront Properties, and next to her was Mr. Naftali Mwangi, CEO, Hyso Properties, and then right next there was Mr. John Kafuru, Regional Manager and Head of Mortgage, Absa Kenya PLC. Right next to him, right there to his left, was Mr. Martin Kariuki, Head of Marketing at Centum Investments, and then to my farthest left is Mr. Johnson Oltetia, CEO, Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company. My name is Brian Mushiri. Do not go away. We are still here for the next session coming up, and also it's going to be online, so you could catch us on www.ntvkenya.co.ke, and also on our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at NTV Kenya, and as well as at nation.africa. My name is Brian Mushiri. This is only day one. It's not done. We are here up to 5 p.m. in the evening, and we'll also be here tomorrow at 5 p.m. So do come and interact with us, get to see the different partners that we have in and around here. Have a good time until we meet the next time. Cheers.
Jik cleans and kills 99.9% of illness-causing germs and COVID-19 in your home. Jik, your family's guardian against germs and COVID-19.
My name is Sogoti James, General Manager Commercial, Nation Media Group. I'm excited with the forthcoming Season 2 of Man Cave. Finally, men's conference come in the name of Man Cave, to discuss the plight, opportunities, strengths, challenges of the man and their real place in society, to transform and offer great solutions for the men and the bigger society as it were. This time it will be held in Tigoni, and I will be attending the event, and we invite all men who think their place of prosperity is here. And now let's come and celebrate.
Kati ya watakaofutwa machozi na mimi nimechaguliwa.
The ministry mantle has been passed on to the youth.
Yes, but the question we are asking is, are they ready? Are they willing? Or are they even equipped?
That's right. Join the conversation this Sunday alongside our superb guests.
Yes, remember, this starting from 11:30 to 1 p.m. only on NTV. And this is Crossover.
Bila Yesu haiwezi.
How can we ensure education systems in Kenya adopt hybrid learning effectively and ensure its longevity and resilience?
It's not enough to just deploy an EdTech solution. There needs to be a lot of support given so that that solution can be incorporated into the daily lives of parents, of the learners.
We need some intervention whereby we as teachers, we get observed as we use the models.
Before we actually get internet connectivity and these devices to people, can we make use of what we currently have?
Join us in shaping this discussion on the future of education as we think through how we can mainstream hybrid learning in Kenya on Monday, 27th of February at 6 p.m. East African Time on NTV.
Show me a jigger, let me see, and let me see the woman that is with. Put a couple $1,000 on your wrist.
Who is ready to learn something or some?
This was the day our heroes fell.
Thin bricks,
thin sticks, thin bricks, thin sticks, thin sticks, thin bricks.
Your support is our only success.
Riddle. What can run but cannot walk?
I think it's electricity because electricity goes very fast but it can't walk.
Give me hand, more time. Malaika yange kuma. Give me hand.
A man in Kakamega showed up at his home 2 days after his funeral. Yes. Pandits have uploaded the wisdom in the timing. This is a man who knows that you should never get between a man and his meal. If he made the mistake of showing up kabla watu wakule kwa matanga yake, they would have killed him for real. How much access do you have as journalists? Juu mnaenda kucover the story of war, sindio? Like, is it like askari wa KDF amelala hapa na wewe umelala hapa kando, anapiga risasi na una record? Kila mtu ana shoot vile anajua.
Hello, come on, sweetheart.
You like calling me late at night?
Because I'm a busy man, and you know I have to hustle for you, baby.
Then promise me this time you will marry me. You know it's been 6 years of dating.
I will marry you soon. You know I am building our future here in Japan.
Aye, but sinilona stories zako uko Nairobi.
That is editing, baby. You know I'm an editor.
Baba Fanwe, unaongea na nani kwa simu sahi saa 8 na mimi ni bibi yako? Haya.
Calm down, mama watoto.
To get Baba Fanuel Flatty, dial *812*807#. Skiza Non-Nation.
Pesa nilifanya nisile, sina kumbukumbu ile.
The weekend is finally upon us, and this Saturday we're going to be bringing the house down.
I'll be a fool to go back to my ex-boyfriend.
Jidanganye! Pala studioni tutakuwa na one of the baddest MCs, MC Gogo.
Wewe na akili zako timamu.
Alafu pia tutakuwa na the very sensational Teardrops.
The rich also cry, but so far ni sonko moja nimesikia kipiga nduru.
And in studio, guys, we are going to be having Rungai Dance Academy.
She want to test my kakara.
Not forgetting, kama kawaida, music policy will be courtesy of DJ Rick Mo, the Afro King.
Teen Republic, in association with Fanta.
Wax over! Busy biters, get down to snack business. When snacking is under attack, we'll be there to fight back.
On this episode of Thamani, we'll look into a business that came from a need, or to some extent, a calamity.
I was moving the career guys. Some of them came drunk. They spoiled my things, and I was thinking I could not mind paying someone else who could oversee these logistics.
And now, as a young CEO, Lucy's moving and cleaning company has so far recruited over 80 members of staff.
3 years since we started, and by the way, the business peaked with Corona.
All this and more on Saturday at 5:30 p.m. Thamani, showcasing resilience and exploring scalability.
We welcome you to this year's International Women's Day celebrations on the 8th of March 2023 at the Sarova Pan-Africa Hotel.
Under the slogan, Embrace Equity, we are celebrating women in innovation and technology. We celebrate women who are forging change and elevating women in the creative industry, and women who are building workspaces where other women can thrive.
The International Women's Day is also for the young woman. Tunataka equality for women in tech. Ultimately, to empower the women hapa Kenya na pia worldwide. Tukue na better choices when it comes to health na say kwa vitu zinatuhusu.
Mwenye sikio na asikie, mwenye wake na atulie. Tarehe ni 8 mwezi Machi mwaka huu 2023. Vikoi, vitenge, kanga, vilemba vitatesa anga. Tukutane tujadili yanayo tuhusu. Mpango mzima ni Sarova Pan-Africa.
Next on Daring Abroad.
I'm the first person in my village to go to the United States.
It's a dream come true for 27-year-old Lorna Mwende Mudhengi as she relocates to the Indiana University of Pennsylvania in pursuit of a master's degree in supply chain management, courtesy of the Kenya Airlift Program.
I'll be basically studying for free.
It's our joy seeing these young people lives get transformed.
On our back home segment, how Thai Sacco is spreading its wings in the diaspora.
We have more than 200 members in the diaspora, in United Arab Emirates, USA, Europe.
Thai Sacco has really enabled me to have some properties that at the back of my mind, I never thought I'd be able to achieve.
Next on Woman Without Limits.
My mother has really gone through a lot, raising a differently abled person like me. Having no arms and I operate mostly with one of my leg, but I really salute her. We've really struggled with her. Raising a person like me, because of how the society views people who are differently able, was not easy, but she conquered, she overcame it all.
Wow, you don't want to miss Woman Without Limits.
Equity PayPal withdrawal service is now available on Equity mobile app and Equity online. To link your PayPal account, download the Equity mobile app from Play Store or App Store or log on to Equity online on equityonline.equitygroupholdings.com to get started.
NTV, turning on your world. The following program has been rated GE. It is therefore suitable for general family viewing.
And Mr. Oltete is on the far left, who's the CEO, Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company. Mr. Obondi, General Manager Investment and Estate, Afia Sacco. Mr. Kevin Sanya right next to him, GM Fusion Estates Limited. And then we have Mr. John Mwaura right next to me, CEO of Finsco Africa. Just do a quick sound check.
Sound check.
Maybe we can start with Mr. Oltetia.
Sound check, sound check.
Sound check. Statement perhaps.
Sound check, sound check.
Okay. I think that this needs to be looked at. Just try once again. Not yet. Yake bado. Kevin Sanya will have a meeting on legal and regulatory requirements in the housing sector, the cooperative, and then we have Stephen Obondi, the cooperative approach to land ownership, its impacts, and the affordability agenda. And then partnerships and collaborations for affordable housing will be by Mr. John Moore, who's right next to me. That's how it's going to be. Okay, we are about to start. Yes, indeed, as we continue to have this great conversation for the 9th time. This is the 254 Realty and Homes Expo, and this year's theme is collaboration and partnerships for affordable housing. We're coming to you live from the Kenyatta International Convention Center, KICC's courtyard, and you can make your way here just to see the different players in the market as far as home ownership is concerned. It's a journey. Starting to own a home is a big journey, and it looks like a monster, but once you make your way here at the KICC today and tomorrow, we'll be here. We've been here from 8 a.m. all the way to 5 p.m. this evening. We'll be here all the way to 5 p.m. tomorrow morning from 8 a.m. So be sure to make your way here to the courtyard. But this monster that is called home ownership has been a big deal, a big issue. We have seen regime after regime promise the Kenyan voter that they will offer affordable housing. The immediate former Jubilee government gave us the Big Four agenda, which had the big issue on home ownership. And now we have the ruling Kenya Kwanza government. And His Excellency President William Ruto has consistently indicated that he will afford and he will grant just about 6 million Kenyans 200,000 to 250,000 homes annually. That's an astronomical figure, and we're here to break it down for you. Just in case you're joining us, my name is Brian Mushiri from NTV and Nation FM, and this conversation is coming to you live on all our social media platforms. That's www.ntvkenya.co.ke and at nation.africa, as well as NTV Kenya, at NTV Kenya, beg your pardon, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just really quick to introduce my panel. Right next to me is Mr. John Mwaura. He's the CEO, Finsco Africa, right next to me. And then we have right next to him is Mr. Kevin Sanya. He's the General Manager, Fusion Estates Limited. Then right next to him is Mr. Stephen Obondi, General Manager, Investment and Estates, Afia Sacco. And then to the farthest left, for the second time running on this panel, is Mr. Johnston Oltetia, CEO, Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. And I'll start with a legal issue, because consistently we've seen legal issues. And to tackle that legal jargon and that legal discussion is Mr. Kelvin Sanya from the Fusion Estates Limited. I mean, talk to me about what I need to look out for when going in and having to look at the legal obligations that I'm given as a homeowner for the first time. What do I need to look out for legally?
Thank you, Brian. People fear a lot of legal issues, but you can't run away from them, especially when you are talking about property ownership. So there's a wide array of issues that I can talk about, but I will try and limit myself for the interest of time. So suppose you want to own a standalone house, an apartment, an office, or just simply land. There are different legal issues that you're going to consider. But just in a nutshell, since we are talking about collaborations and how we can make Kenyans own their first home, I would restrict myself to owning either a house or land. And primarily, first is just to identify the property that you want to buy or you want to invest in. And after you've identified, then you need to ensure that the property is clean, it has a proper title. So you would have to engage a lawyer, or you would have to engage a surveyor to just do some due diligence for you to just make sure that the title is clean, the owner of that property owns it legally, and then now getting into the documentation in the process of ownership, just making sure that the sale agreement between the buyer and the seller is clearly and knitted out before you put in any any money into that property, you need to at least visit it. You need to know where it is. You need to know at least the previous owner, if there were any disputes that were on that property before now you can get. So if you do all this, you'll be able to avoid the legal tussles of going to court and all that. If it is an apartment or a completed house, you need to ensure that the documentation of handover are complete. So the contractor completed the house, and all the details about that house are captured in your agreement, so that you don't have a tussle. You've completed paying, you've started repaying your mortgage, and yet you cannot access your house because it has not been handed over. So there are a lot of things, but at least as the conversation goes on, we'll be able to tackle one or two issues here and there.
And definitely, I'm going to request you just to shed light on matters to do with a property that had a tussle, because we have seen it all across the country that we were siblings and now we've been left this piece of land and there's a tussle, and then that tussle has been sorted out by the court. So is it still a hot potato because it once had a tussle? And you're going to perhaps shed light on that. But right next to me, Mr. Mwaura, the CEO of Finsco Africa. The partnerships that we continue to see, and it's quite interesting that we have Mr. Olteti on this panel again. The partnerships and collaborations we continue to see for affordable housing. What's your take on that as far as the industry is concerned and the current atmosphere in the country is concerned as far as home ownership is concerned? Are we making a step forward? Are we taking several steps backward? And what's the position from your view?
Thank you so much, Brian. I think I can say there is a serious confusion from the government itself. I think I'm happy to see my brother Johnson is here. The government itself has never come out of the confusion in which they put themselves into. First of all, the government is confused, the whole of government affordable housing program. Because the issue of partnership, the partnership starts all the way from land ownership to the developer, to the financier, to the contractor, even now to the person taking the project. So the first thing is, when you talk about affordable housing, what is affordable? What is affordable? Because everybody talk about affordable housing. That word affordable housing has always remained kisungumkuti, a confusion somewhere.
Okay.
And why is saying that that's something that now we need first of all to come out of, because people have never first of all be able to understand what affordable means. If I do a house of 10 million and it's supposed to be 15 million or 20 million, is that house affordable? What if somebody is doing a house of 3 million? Is that what you are supposed to be calling affordable? So first of all, there's a confusion on the pricing and the size of the house. Confusion number one. Confusion number two, who is supposed to fund these houses? It is not the government. But the confusion that has been there is people always assume it is the government funding this project. So for the partnership, let people first of all understand the role of the government. I'm not speaking for the government. The role of the government is not to fund these projects. These projects are being done by mostly by private developers like us. And you require a financier. That financier can be a bank, can be an equity person, somebody coming to put money into your project, like us, for instance, at Finsco Africa. We look at who is that partners coming to you. But most likely people think we are doing this affordable housing for the government. The only thing that the government is trying to help and assist on, especially if there is a RAD that maybe belong to the county government, for instance, and you've been allocated that land, you pay for that RAD as a developer somewhere down the line. The project will be valued, and you'll be told maybe this house per acre is maybe 20 million. You pay later.
Okay.
But now, the financing of the project itself, people expect it's government. It is not.
Okay.
You have to look for your own financier as a private developer. And that is why this issue of affordable housing program has been a problem. Even the entrance of the KMRC, the CEO is here. You cannot just go to KMRC and they tell you they are going to finance you easily. Most likely they base on, because they say differently, they base on the financing, not on the development perspective, but on end users. The person coming to buy, you can get 20 years or so. You have to structure your own financing. So one thing I can say on the partnership, when you put the government in it, government is doing the issue of giving rebates, the issue of when they're supposed to have VAT, they don't charge, you're not supposed to charge VAT, especially for the materials. For the first time homeowners, you're not charged stamp duty and such. Partnership is there for government and something, and KMRC enters because they're charging a very good rate of 9.5% compared to maybe the current rate of between 13.5 and above. But there's still a confusion today in the government on affordable housing.
Definitely, thank you very much for your sentiments right there, and I will require you also as a player in the market to now bring it out and how now to move forward, because a quick reminder that for this discussion, it's not really on just calling it out. Now let's look for a way forward, beg your pardon, and look out, because in line with our theme of collaboration and partnerships for affordable housing. But I'll come back to you also as a player, what you're looking out for in the coming days. Just to get Mr. Oltetia's sentiments on this particular issue, that is home ownership, and he says, or Mr. Maura says, it's some legal big monster that is a jargon that we are all confused. What's your take on this? And again, you continue to remind us that you don't talk for government, but what's your take on this?
I think where there is a bit of a missing link is potentially understanding what's going on with the developments of affordable housing. Maybe there isn't sufficient information out there about what players are doing, but there is no confusion. There is very good clarity on development of affordable housing. And I'm saying this because we have a mechanism for delivery of affordable housing. And this is looking at both the supply side and the demand side. Now, there are players who are pushing on the supply side. And this is mainly from the side of the State Department for Housing, the National Housing Corporation, and the rest. Pamoja na private developers. So that is the supply side. And it's very clear who are playing there. There is also the demand side. And the demand side is literally about providing end user finance, enabling people to actually buy the homes or getting financing for homes. And this is where KMRC is. It's on the demand side of that equation. Now, there are linkages between the demand side and the supply side. And we usually have conversations around that. And we have, as KMRC, been able to bring all the stakeholders together. You remember we even had a conference last year in November here at KICC. And the intention is essentially to bring in everyone who has a responsibility in the development of affordable housing so that we can have a conversation. And the intention is to determine what are the challenges we face and how can we resolve them. So it's usually a very practical conversation to sort out the issues, if there are any, and even determine new ways of doing things to scale up the development of affordable housing. And that's one way of having to remove confusion if there is any. Now, if you look carefully at the models that have been built, which is essentially both on the supply and the demand side, and maybe if you want, I can shift into the question of financing. Now, you note that financing actually comes on both sides. Now, innovative financing obviously is required. There has been obviously traditional financing we have from banks, we have from government and that kind of thing, but that is not nearly enough for developing the kind of affordable housing that we're looking at. So of course there has to be more innovative financing approaches that can be developed. On the supply side, for example, the discussion earlier we had about private-public partnerships still persists. It's important. And this is where you structure a product, you structure a development, potentially in a site, and then you have different actors contributing to that. For example, you have government, which could be the national government or the county government, contributing potentially a piece of land for construction. Now, maybe lay out the horizontal infrastructure, you know, the water, sewer, roads, and things like that. And you value that contribution. Now, that means you can actually now put together an SPV, a special purpose vehicle, to drive that development. And you get investors to put in funding into the SPV. Now, when you do that, then you get sufficient funding for purposes of developing that particular site. So that's one model of an innovative kind of product that can be used for purposes of developing housing within our counties. We have a couple of others, of course, like, for example, going now into the capital markets for purposes of raising funds. Now, that can be done through REITs, you know. So you or anyone can structure a real estate investment trust, put together that kind of arrangement, and there will be investment. At the moment, we have REITs, some of them actually listed in our capital markets, and they are usually either development or income REITs. But for purposes of development, because you need that on the supply side, you start with a development REIT, and which is converted immediately after that into an income REIT and that kind of thing. So those are some of the structures that we can actually have, and there are actually conversations going on right now on all those, you know. So we have innovative arrangements that are currently ongoing. It's only possible that it may not have become public yet, but there's a lot of conversation that is going on. Of course, there is also the issue of crowding in or mobilizing pension funds for that investment. Singapore is one of the greatest examples of how housing development can be done through pension funds. So they have a pension fund that you contribute into, own your pension. And what happens is that that pension is used for purposes of development. You know, now we are just talking about the supply side. So that development. But that essentially means you actually retain your pension, but you qualify to borrow from that kind of investment to buy the house.
Yes.
At the end of it all, you get your pension. So it was an investment both ways, an investment in housing, and of course you continue to accumulate your savings in pension.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. That's Mr. Johnson Oltetia, CEO, Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company. Now to bring on board Mr. Stephen Obondi, General Manager, Investments and Estates at Afya Sacco. The issue on financing has been brought out quite clearly and quite loudly. Everyone will consistently recall as far as financing is concerned, and the confusion right there in the whole space. But talk to us about cooperatives and where you guys sit as far as the journey of assisting every single Kenyan is concerned towards home ownership.
Thank you, Brian. First of all, thank you for having me in this particular panel so that you can be able to share some insights, especially on the cooperative side. Now, having listened to the panelists, I think what has come out clearly is the issue of financing. But I would say, sitting from the cooperative side, that on our end, on the cooperative side, we have an already market because as it is, investments in the circle is actually a wing of the cooperative. So speaking about Afya investment, these are the investment wing of the cooperative, Afya Cooperative Society. So basically, in terms of the mission of not only Afya but all cooperatives, is actually to mobilize deposits for purposes of offering all-inclusive financial services, maybe at affordable interest rates. So now in this particular case, now the investment wing comes in to fill the gap, whereby now the cooperative moves away from its core objective of giving out loans to the members for their own social economic well-being. Now we provide a platform whereby our members are able now to invest in land. So basically on this front, I would say that under the cooperative movement, we offer our membership investment opportunities in terms of having land that we acquire, and this is also for purposes of for the membership. Now, on the same breath, then the same members can be able also to take loans from the society. It's just an investment thing. They take the loan from the society, and then we go ahead and issue investment opportunity in terms of land. Now, moving on from there, at least the first bit of acquiring, or let me say the acquisition of land is done, then since it's a journey, maybe the member through the cooperative can also go further. Maybe they want to develop their pieces of land, put up a house, or maybe say just put some additions to the piece of land. They can also go back to the society and acquire more credit facilities from the SACCO for purposes of developing the already acquired pieces of land. So in terms of financing, I would say through the cooperatives, that has not been a challenge as such, because it's part of the objective of the society, and we have an already existing membership in terms of the members of the SACCO.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm sure you gentlemen, we have all been briefed that this panel is going to be exclusively and extremely short. Do remember to just mention that we are live on NTV Kenya's YouTube page. Mr. Obondi, very briefly, because now in the next round of questions, I will require you gentlemen to give us your views and your way forward and your closing remarks. So you guys are so many in the market. There are so many cooperatives, and all eating into one market. Yes, indeed, they say that the market is quite big, na hamwezi mkamaliza yote. But what am I supposed to be looking out for to look for the right partner as far as a cooperative is concerned? Very briefly, sir.
Thank you, Brian. Very true. In terms of competition in the SACCOs, there are so many SACCOs, and you will find that most of the products that are being offered by these SACCOs are generic, because they actually cut across all the SACCOs. So first of all, the advantage I would say as a SACCO that we have is that we have an already existing market in terms of our own members. So first of all is to ensure that we are very alive to the needs of our membership in terms of investment. We go ahead to try and look at adding value, especially in terms of the land that we've acquired on behalf of our members. What happens is that so that we can be able to add that competitive advantage over the other SACCOs, is that we do what is known as value addition to our projects, such as drilling of boreholes. We have public utilities whereby we're able to also put playing grounds for the for the people who will come to that community. So basically, we also ensure that we provide the social amenities for the people who are going to be investing in that particular project. So maybe that's the advantage that we'll be able to have over any other SACCO. Not only SACCOs, by the way, there are other also land buying institutions, companies out there who've made the competition very, very aggressive. So it's that issue of value addition is what maybe can be able to set us apart from the competitors. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you very much. Just taking up the last round of questions now, Mr. John Mwaura, who's right next to me, CEO of Finsco Africa. You talked about in your opening remark about confusion. Going forward, what's supposed to be the direction that we should be looking out for?
I think I will start with let's be honest. Let's be honest. First of all, the government is trying to do a lot in making affordable housing work. Not even affordable housing, making the agenda of housing work. And the biggest the agenda that the government need to come clear on is matters financing. And I will repeat it again for 10 times. Matters financing. Financing either the developer or financing the end user. Let me first of all say how I think should happen. I would wish to encourage most of the people with the big parcels of land in strategic locations, like around the metropolis or near the towns or near the cities, let them embrace joint ventures. I will seek the people to embrace joint ventures. You can come to Finsco Africa with your ad and give us your ad. And we do a joint venture program and we register a joint venture.
Okay.
Now, number two, when the moment we register the joint venture, that means I don't need to buy the land as a developer, because I have a market. Okay, I have a market. I have staff, 200, 300, maybe 400 people. Those people are the ones who are going to find you somewhere along the street or in your office to sell a house to you. But people, instead of me investing money from the land first, I need to invest in marketing. So the issue of funding, the other people we are being told that they are coming here with financing from from other countries, from outside the country, offshore funders, they are asking imaginary things. Give us bank guarantee. Give us this. They are asking things even themselves they also don't understand. They should come in this country to understand how things goes. You cannot come here to ask people, give us bank guarantee. Why do I need your bank guarantee and I can go to my bank here and get the same bank guarantee to move ahead with my customers?
Okay.
So those people who are calling themselves investors who are coming, let them also understand. Let them come and put their fingers into the project. If they don't do that, they're still jokers. Number 3 is the issue of when the government says we are going to do infrastructure around the project. Let the government also be serious in it.
Okay.
You cannot say that you're going to do sewer, we are going to do this, we are going to, but it's about just talking, and they're not doing it. Let them do it. Hii mambo ya kuongea kila siku, you do it, then 5 years will come and go. And still Kenyans are going to, which house is there? Let the government do it.
Okay.
So if we are talking about doing something, let's be honest.
Okay.
And finally, let also Kenyans understand, you cannot live on a rented house until you are being called grandfather or grandmother. And you're living in a rented house. Year 1, year 2, and you're a civil servant. Year 1, even if you are working from NTV. Year 1, year 2, I can see you are still a young man. You cannot tell me you want to rent a house for the next 20 years. That amount that you are renting for the next 20 years, is that the same amount that Johnson wants to give us? Money for 20 years. Why can't you go to Johnson? He give you amount at 9.5%. You come to Finsco Africa, we give you a house. That house, once you pay it for the next 10 or 15 years, at the 10 years or 15 years, if you start a project today, and by 10 years you finish, if you get a baby today, that baby will be in class 3 or class 4. And by that time of 10 years, your house will be valued that much. If it's 5 million, maybe it will be valued at maybe 8 million. But you live in a rented home, year 1, year 2, year 10, again and again. And you are a civil servant, you are a business person. Nobody will come to solve your issues. You become a grandfather, grandmother there, and you are still renting.
Absolutely. Let me just now indulge finally in the closing remarks. Of course, Mr. Johnson Oltetia was smiling throughout that whole remark right there. But let me just get to hear from Kevin Sanya your final remarks on this conversation, even as we go home.
Thank you, Brian. Final remarks, I think I'll pick it up from your earlier question regarding land ownership and the legal challenges and any other challenges that consumers really face. And I'll just try and wrap it up, the conversation around KMRC and the SACCOs and the different players that are in the market. So for the common, we usually like using common mwananchi. For the person out there who wants to own their first house or they want to own their first land, I think key for them, since they do not have that muscle to get a lawyer, to pay a surveyor, to get all these people to do the due diligences so that they don't fall into the legal battles. I think the key thing that they need to look at is look for reputable players in the market. And for Fusion Estates, we've been in this market for the last 16 years. We've done developments cutting across Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda. Over 1 million square feet of space that we are housing businesses, homes, and individuals. So look for reputable players that have proper corporate governance, that have been tried and tested. You can go touch and feel some of their developments. And that helps you to know that my money is in safe hands. And number 2, regarding now the tussles of land, such a partner that you get into to work together with will have done their own proper due diligence. And if there was a tussle, they have the muscle to go to court. They have the muscle to get the best lawyers in town to just uncover what was in the past on that land, so that when you're getting your title, you have peace of mind. You can build your house and that house will live from generation to generation.
Okay.
And then these corporate players, again, we have partnered with KMRC to just try and model the rent-to-own arrangement. I think that's a conversation we can have on another day. We partner with banks, we partner with SACCOs, so that our end-user clients can be able to secure this financing cheaply. And also, us as Fusion, we try and look for land at places where people want to live at a budget that they can be able to afford. We go an extra mile and do the infrastructure so that the end user can be relieved that extra burden of doing one or two things here and there. So I think my closing remarks is just look for the right partner in the market. There are so many players in the market. You can be able to identify the right partners. Just make sure that the documentation is correct, and look for partners who are doing collaborative initiatives so that they can reduce that load. Otherwise, thank you.
Thank you very much. Stephen Obondi and Johnson Oltetia, your final remarks briefly in 30 seconds, please.
Thank you, Brian. Maybe if I take it from where Kevin has left, first of all is to appreciate the collaboration that KMRC has had with SACCOs in terms of financing the mortgage. Now, when you're talking about the SACCOs, the issue was actually to acquire pieces of land whereby the SACCOs have a ready market, but also the collaboration with the KMRC and many other players will be able to assist in terms of financing the mortgages and all that. Now, but I would say that further investing in land through a SACCO is very, very key, because in that there is the issue of the purchasing economies of scale, whereby the SACCO will actually purchase the land in bulk, and in terms of passing that saving to the end user who is a member, then at least in terms of affordability, then that particular piece of land is going to be cheaper, as opposed to maybe someone going directly to the bank. Now, going directly to the seller. Now, at least the other advantage I would say is that there is no middleman in between. Maybe when a SACCO is purchasing land on behalf of its members, so that one also translates in terms of savings to the members. Maybe also my closing remark, I would say that for the members out there, for the people out there, I mean, it's very key. Let them join SACCOs. SACCOs out there, they're offering their products, and let them take the investment wing seriously in terms of home ownership. This is very key, as has been outlined by the panelists here, especially Mr. Moura, that home ownership is quite key in terms of old age and all that. So yes, let's take that advantage, and yes, and everything will be okay. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Mr. Oltetia.
Thank you, Brian. I think I just want to note that KMRC is an innovator. The refinancing itself in our market is an innovation. It's rare, it's unique, and particularly the involvement of SACCOs. In most other countries around the world, actually there is no country around the world which has SACCOs as part of the refinancing model. So that's unique to us. Now, we are already providing financing or financial innovative approaches. For example, we are giving fixed interest rates which are not there. 88% of our rates in the market is actually variable. And now we are providing fixed interest rates for mortgages, and that actually supports people. Now, when you look at the cyclicalities that we have right now and the variability of interest rates, it's unbelievably high. So what stops anyone from now heading to a financial institution that is getting KMRC money to take a fixed rate loan? Please do that. Now, we are also now going into supporting those who don't have a formal income. And this is an approach that we've just started recently, which is the lower income. Okay. You know, there are people, shops, taxi drivers and things like that, that actually don't have a formal income, but they can afford to buy a home. So what we're providing is we're looking for digital assessment tools for credit to be able to enable them to get there, and potentially also start working on some form of mortgage guarantees, which will actually help to bring those people at the lower level to be able to gain access to affordable housing.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us this conversation. Just to take you through the panel that has been here. Right next to me is Mr. John Mwaura. He's the CEO of Finsco Africa. And then right next to him is Kevin Sanya from Fusion Estates. He's actually the general manager there. And then right next to him is Stephen Obondi. General Manager, Investment and Estates at Afya Sacco. And then to my farthest left is Mr. Johnson Oltetia, CEO, Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the second panel discussion right here at the KICC courtyard. Continue conversing with us on our social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, as well as our YouTube handle, our YouTube page, that's at NTV Kenya, and also at nation.africa is where we keep this conversation going. The hashtag we are using is the 254 Realty and Homes Expo. That's the 254 Realty and Homes Expo. That's a conversation. We continue to have that conversation on our social media platforms. Thank you to everyone that has made this great production come home, to our different camera persons, my producer Sarah Jane Ngige, my director Mike the Director, and everyone here at NTV and at the Nation Media Group. Do be sure to continue interacting with us for the 9th edition, that is the 254 Realty and Homes Expo. Remember that great promise by His Excellency President William Ruto and the Kenya Kwanza government that they will churn 200,000 to 250,000 homes annually. Again, it's an astronomical figure, and make your way here at the KICC just to look at the different partners, and let's debunk this conversation. Is it really possible? My name is Brian Mushiri from NTV and Nation FM. Have a good time. Thank you very much, guys. Asanteni sana.